Well, joining us now is George Weigel, the author of Pomp, Circumstance, and Unsolicited Advice. It's a collection of university lectures and commencement addresses he's made throughout his career. It's just one of dozens of books he's written as a theologian, and we're so happy to have him here on the show today. Thank you so much for being with us, George.
Thank you, and greetings from Krakow in Poland, the city of St. John Paul II.
Amen, amen. A great connection from Poland.
Yes, wonders of technology.
Well, your book highlights the Catholic roots of the university system and its commitment to free inquiry. How can Catholic institutions reclaim their role as stewards of true academic freedom?
Well, I think Catholic institutions can provide a template for the reform of higher education throughout the United States and indeed throughout the Western world by being Catholic, meaning being institutions where faith and reason work together, as John Paul II said in the encyclical Fides et Ratio, as the two wings on which the human spirit rises to a contemplation of the truth. It's a beautiful image, but you got to have both wings. One-winged flying generally leads to crash and burn, and that is what has happened in a lot of higher education over the last half century or so, because when faith drops out of the picture, when God drops out of the picture, when religious conviction drops out of the picture, reason begins to question itself and then becomes irrational. And that's what we've seen on so many college and university campuses over the past year and a half. So I hope this little book inspires the good Catholic colleges to continue doing good, and those that really need to reconnect themselves to the faith and reason roots of the university, which, as you say, the church started in the 13th century, to do so.
So, George, you describe the academic degree as a summons rather than just a personal achievement. So for Catholics that are graduating today, how should they understand their formation, not just as education, but as vocation?
Well, I suppose it depends on whether they've had that kind of education that is also formation. I mean, there are too many Catholic colleges and universities that are essentially ticket punching institutions where you get a diploma in order to get a job. Now, getting a job is not unimportant. It's obviously important. But true higher education forms the soul and the heart, as well as the mind and the skills of the mind. For people who have been fortunate to have that kind of higher education, I've tried to encourage them in these commencement addresses over the years to think vocationally, to constantly be asking the question, what is God asking me to do now? As I said in one of these addresses, if that's the question around which you build your life, it might not be easy, but it's never going to be boring. It'll be adventure all the way. And here in this wonderful city of John Paul II, one is very much aware of that. That was the question he was constantly asking himself from the time he was living here in Krakow under a draconian Nazi occupation during the Second World War. It's the question he kept asking himself as the bishop of this city. And it's the question he kept asking himself constantly as Pope. What is God asking me to do now? So that's what I would try to suggest to people heading out into the world today from their educational experience.
What are some of the most common forms of unsolicited advice you offer to graduates? Why do you think these messages are important for young Catholics today?
Well, I think what I just rattled on about for a few minutes is probably the most common form of it. Sure. I mean, I just decided to have some fun with that title. I mean, everybody has listened to Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance marches at graduations till you can probably sing the thing in your sleep or hum it. And too many commencement addresses, in my experience, are full of unsolicited advice, like this is Polonius talking to Hamlet or something. So I just thought to have a little fun with the title. I hope whatever advice I give is solicited or not, rooted in the sense that a truly Christian life, a truly human life, is a vocational life. It's a life lived as self-gift. It's a life lived pondering that question, what is God asking me to do now?
And George, what gives you hope about the future of Catholic higher education? Are there any, you work with students, are there any students or experiences you have where you're like, okay, this is moving in the right direction, but also some of the challenges too?
The institutions which were kind enough to offer me a chance to address their commencement exercises over the last several years are real signs of hope in Catholic higher education. I would also suggest to those who are watching and listening to this that we are living in a kind of golden age of Catholic campus ministry around the United States, often in some very unsuspected places. North Dakota State University in Fargo has a spectacular Catholic campus ministry program. Texas A&M University, College Station, Texas. The Thomistic Institute that my friends in the East Coast province of the Dominicans are running all over the country on campuses, bringing serious Catholic content to Catholic campuses. These are all signs of real vitality. And then there are the schools that I had the privilege of addressing, the University of Dallas, Franciscan University in Steubenville. I would mention Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas, Christendom College in Northern Virginia, Thomas Aquinas College in California. There is a rich menu of really fine, smaller, but nonetheless excellent Catholic liberal arts colleges around the country that provide an education that prepares young people for anything, for the professions, for the business world, for public service, for marriage and the family, for religious life, for the priesthood. Catholic parents, be aware of these places because your children, your sons and daughters will get a really fine education there.
Yeah, that's great. And really quick, George, I'm just curious, do you remember what your commencement address was like when you got your bachelor's degree, and was it inspiring for you?
I remember it was given by Father Carl Peter, sorry. Carl Peter was a very fine theologian teaching at the Catholic University of America at that point, who died way too young, but in whose honor an annual lecture at the North American College, the American Seminary in Rome, is given every year, the Carl Peter Lecture, and I've often had the occasion to be in Rome for that, and I think with gratitude of Father Peter's scholarship and witness every time I'm there.
That's great. George, thank you so much. So people can check out your book, Pomp, Circumstance, and Unsolicited Advice at Ignatius Press. I hope you have safe travels back to the U.S. from Poland.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.